Australia, and it is shameful that the Australian government does not provide permanent refugee visas for the Rohingya refugees and does not increase resettlement given what's happening at the moment. It's a shame and a stain upon all Australians that this is happening. The international community's failure on Palestine, on acting to safeguard the rights of Rohingya people, and the failure has resulted in the deaths, thousands of deaths in the past 6 months alone of Rohingya. Once again, like in Palestine, the world watches on as a political and humanitarian catastrophe unfolds before us. And we feel so disempowered by watching it. There is no question that the systematic targeting and destruction of the Rohingya people meets the definition of genocide under the 1948 Convention. Almost every government has failed in their treaty obligations to prevent and punish genocide that calls on governments to safeguard and prevent genocide. That was the whole point of the convention. And here we are in 2024 in different parts of the world, in Gaza, and watching people in refugee camps and in Myanmar being annihilated. The international community has also failed the Sudanese, I might add, the Congolese, the Uyghur, the Karnak people, the West Papuan people. And today we stand in solidarity with the Rohingya, all of us, especially in the Arabic community. The Rohingya people have a right to justice, and as our beautiful first speaker said, a right to accountability. Rohingya people have a right to return, to live in their homeland without fear of persecution, without fear of harm, without the threat of genocide. And it is us here and all over the world. We must do everything in our power, limited as it may be, to ensure that justice is served. Perpetrators of genocide must be brought to justice, whether they are low-level officials or the elites who sit in the comfort of their war rooms, making arms deals, funding genocide and forcibly expelling people from their homes and lands. Like in Gaza, the words of Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish resonate with me from the poem "The Earth is Closing on Us." Darwish asks, where should we go after the last frontiers? Where should the birds fly after the last sky? The international response to the Rohingya people is devoid of humanitarian principles. As refugees, the Rohingya people have rights under so many conventions. We urge the international community today to implement and escalate targeted sanctions and arms embargoes on Myanmar, cutting funds to Myanmar's military and impeding its capacity, as should happen with Israel. Those kinds of sanctions ensure that we start to limit abuses and violations of the most fundamental human rights for people. Earlier this year, a major report found almost a dozen Australian and Australian-linked mining companies are still operating in Myanmar and investing in its resources sector.
Shame.
As many communities have demanded, the federal government has a moral responsibility to ensure Australian companies are not bankrolling the Myanmar military regime's atrocities. We call on all countries to redouble humanitarian and accountability efforts for the Rohingya people. We must all work towards creating conditions that are conducive for the safe, voluntary, dignified and sustainable return of the Rohingya people to their homeland if they choose to return. Where people are not able to return because their safety cannot be guaranteed, we urge an increase in the resettlement of Rohingya people to Australia and other countries, and afford refugees their full rights under the standards, principles and conventions of international human rights as they were originally conceived. Finally, I want to honour the community here. I want to honour the martyrs. I want to honour the survivors, the orphans, the people made homeless. I want to honour those who had escaped, those who live from moment to moment in the uncertainty that comes with the violence of forcible displacement. Free, free Arakan.
Free Arakan. Free Arakan.